I'm Rihanna Nikram, and today we have the honor of speaking with the Chief Investment Officer of the Government of Guyana and Agency Head of the Guyana Office for Investment, Dr. Peter Ramsaroop. So, Dr. Ramsaroop, how are you today?
Very good, thank you.
So, we'll get straight into it. Guyana's economy was ranked among one of the 5 fastest growing economies in the world by Nasdaq Bloomberg and the International Monetary Fund at the time when the rest of the world economy was in decline. It is said that the country is poised for an economic boom. Can you tell us about some of the things that make Guyana ideal for investment?
Well, our economic boom has started probably when the government took office in 2020. And when you talk about investment, just to bring the viewer up to speed, is you think of buying a stock. And why would you invest in a stock in a company and what you expect of the returns? When we took office, our president, Dr. Ali, outlined a vision for Guyana of 2030 and beyond. And he put into a plan in place in terms of what infrastructure would look like, what social development, what hospitals and medicine would look like in its first 5 years. By putting that plan together, it created an investment climate of stable economics, stable vision, and so the world saw Guyana now as this new investment opportunity. Given that the oil and gas did propel our economy also, but if you look at the last 4 years, the non-oil industry has grew more than the other countries in the world. So the growth is compounded with vision, strategy, a financial investment climate that is stable, and ultimately, and I think I like to repeat what His Excellency has said many times, is his ultimate success is the prosperity and wealth of every Guyanese. So we may talk about investment and strategy and vision, but at the end of the day, the citizens still look for those opportunities and how do they benefit, and they have.
Okay, so you mentioned that Go Invest has taken on a more aggressive role in marketing Guyana as this investment paradise for 4 years. What has influenced this change at the government level?
Well, I track it back to what I just said too, in terms of you have to have a leadership, bold leadership and vision. And that's what the president and the cabinet and the government has portrayed throughout. And then you have to be result oriented. What are the results? If you look at in the last 5 years, we're coming up to the 5-year term, 60,000 new jobs, 40,000 new house lots. We took away the 200 taxes the previous government had put in place. All of those things have propelled. So it makes it easier in terms of when you talk about investment and you talk about what have we done differently, is as a government, we have done many things differently. And so I think your next question probably could be, well, what drives an investor to come into Guyana? And exactly those are the exact things that drive them, because they want to know that if you say you're going to build the road, right, you're going to do it. If you're going to build a bridge across the Demerara, you're going to do it. So as I invest in the economics of Guyana, the investor follows the money. And basically, going back to, so if energy was our number one in the first 2 years, we saw energy investments grew significantly. The tier 1 contractors for Halliburton, or Exxon, Halliburton, Technique FMC, all came to Guyana and set up regional headquarters. So our FDI, foreign direct investment, was high in those areas. Then we had our local folks create fabrication plants, expand their operations in support of the gas industry. So it's not just the foreign investors that benefited from that plan, but the local investors also benefited. And if we just look at one sector, say we look at the tourism sector, we know we have about 10 branded hotels going up within the city range simultaneously. But the first one that opened, the Best Western Aden, was a local investment, 15 to 20 million US dollars. We've got all the other ones coming online this year, 2,000 new rooms. And so what drove that investment? Why would investors, both local and foreign, come in and spend that level of money into Guyana in the hospitality industry? they saw what the president and a lot of us saw, that the boom is happening with us and the development is measurable. And that's why you see some of those investments have taken place.
Okay. So what would you say are the core areas of focus under your leadership?
Well, one is Guyana has come from nowhere, basically, to a recognized country where, the president has outlined climate security, energy security, food security. So he has set that stage, and now, he is launching this year the Biodiversity Alliance. So when people look at Guyana, they go, wow, we didn't know your forest is the size of England. We didn't know it has 19.5 gigatons of carbon. We didn't know it is valued at $195 billion. We didn't know you have this much land for agriculture that we could feed the region. And the region, for example, imports $6 to $8 billion US dollars worth of food every year. And that's what the president and CARICOM has been tackling. And then energy security. We have the oil and gas. We're bringing the gas to shore. When that gas to shore comes, it brings energy costs down by 50%. Yeah. It's a wow factor. So by putting all that together, we then go out in our office around the world to let folks know why they should be in Guyana, what are they missing. And if you look at just the energy conference that was just concluded in February, the thousands of people that came actually for the next wave. And if you look at what the next wave is, as we bring energy costs down, manufacturing will explode, right? Who would ever thought that maybe we'll start canning corn and pineapples and other products that we have in Guyana? Who would ever thought that we may be able to go back to an industry where we can take our bauxite and turn it into alumina, or silica sand to glass? So those are large projects that will come on board in the next term under His Excellency guidance and presidency, and that's what we're letting the world know, that it's time for them to come in and look at Guyana 2030 and beyond. But to look at Guyana 2030 beyond, they got to be here now for this next new wave.
Okay. So can you tell us what have been your major successes at the helm of Go Invest?
Well, one, I think that the goal, apart from the investments, which creates jobs, we talk about 60,000 jobs that came in through many different sectors, not just the investment side. But our goal this year, and we can take credit for some things in the previous year, but the goal this year is to take our local products international. So in Barbados recently, we had the AgroFest, where over the last 2 years, we've been able to sign only coconut into the region, Comfort Sleep, and other Guyanese products. We want now to see how we can develop more of our local products to get them into the distribution market worldwide. Yeah. And that takes, the getting up to standards and making the product marketable. And, the Guyana Office of Investment has come a long way too. We're ISO certified. We're on listed first in the world in Dun & Bradstreet, right? So when an investor from the outside look at our entity, they realize that we have met our standards in order to tell them why they should be invested in Guyana. So those are some accomplishments I think our staff is very proud of.
That's great. So can you tell me what is the estimate of the value of investments in Guyana over the past 4 years, and how many Guyanese have gained employment as a result?
Well, the investments are in the billions of dollars, and if you just look across Guyana and you drive on the Heroes Highway, that the president, came out back in 21, and people go, wow, where did he get this idea from? How did he do it so fast? And you drive down that one road, and you see the development that is happening. You go to Linden, and you go to drive into the Muburo road that is being built right now with the connection to northern Brazil, and you look at all of the other entities or infrastructure that is happening. That tells you that the investments has been significant, both from government and private sector. The number that Dr. Singh used in the budget, in Budget 25, said over the last 5 years, we've created 60,000 new jobs in Guyana. And, you've given out 40,000 house lots. There are many homes going up. People have a sense of pride, and hope now that Guyana is developing. So the measurable results from, I think, government policy And I give much credit to His Excellency, because without bold leadership in any, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or running an economy like Guyana, you have to have bold leadership and vision and strategy. And if you have those things and you have a measurable plan that says, you know, if I spend this money, this is what's going to happen. And that's what he has done. And that's where the 60,000 jobs have come back in place. I mean, what he inherited in 2020 was terrible. I mean, last government had you know, discarded thousands of sugar workers, the community workers in the indigenous villages. And so the economy was at a standstill. It was at a dropping rate very, very fast. So to go in and come in to recover from that and then create what we have today, and I think the next 5 years is going to be probably the most exciting ride young people like you get to see happen for yourself in Guyana. And, you know, if I can tell the audience one thing is, don't get left behind. You've got to figure out as a Guyanese where you fit. And when we talk about all this, don't look back and say, I don't know that's happening. Your job is to ensure you understand what is happening and how do I become part of it? How do I gain the prosperity and the wealth creation that we are pushing as government and private sector out there? And I think that is what I hope in the next few years, that Guyanese realize that this is ours. And the President One Guyana initiative is about that. It's about duty of hope, a sense of pride. It's about being part of the development. And the more and more we get excited about being part of the development, the more and more we will gain from the experience, and not look back and say, you know, somebody else took it from us.
So can you tell me, what are the areas that have attracted the most investment, and what factors may have contributed to this?
Well, very interesting enough, you know, with all the construction going on, and Guyana will be a construction zone for the next 20 years, we have seen a lot of decline in terms of the aggregates we need. So we have had many new quarries come into play, licensed. We have seen construction companies being developed because, you know, there's so much work to do. We don't have enough people right now to do the work. That's a sad part about development also. And in the energy sector, definitely the support of the oil and gas. But what was interesting too in the oil and gas is a good example. The Exxons of the world have large contracts on food. Well, none of us in Guyana could support delivering food services, catering services to Exxon because it's so large. And the president put out an initiative and put a bundle of a consortium together of local caterers and food handlers, and now they could be part of the development. We were importing tons and hundreds of tons of stock feed for poultry, right? Paying big money on freight charges and stock feed from around the world. He got 5 competitors together in the poultry industry and got in the room and says, here you're going to have land, plant your own corn and soybean. And they are doing it, and they're successful. And now they have reduced their import costs significantly, and they're buying back from themselves as a marketing. But this is competitors, you know. But at the end of the day, we're going to become a net exporter of stock feed. And that is a good example of where it's not talking just local content, it's not talking we can't compete, it's how do we figure out how to compete and how to create the wealth and prosperity for us.
Can you tell me, what are your agency's major plans for this year?
Well, I mentioned the export side. We really want to get our products into the international market. We want to be prepared for the next wave, which is the cheaper energy. Cheaper energy comes manufacturing, right? We may see garment industry, things that, again, you require cheaper energy and we couldn't do. It's not that we didn't want to do it, right? So we're preparing for that, what I call the second wave of the economic boom of Guyana. And so this year is putting that together, going with Dr. Ashley Singh 25 budget in terms of where government is spending money, and letting the investment world, both local and international, know if we're going on building the road to Brazil, and we just came back from a trade mission with Brazil, what is it we're looking to partner with Brazil on, right? They need our transshipment point. The president talks about the deepwater harbor that will be announced soon that we will construct. Northern Brazil needs a deep port. We need the deep port. But there are many other ports being constructed, Vichy and Georgetown, their TriStar, that we'll be able to handle a lot more traffic. But ultimately, how do we create the product line that then our products get out to the wider world, right? So I like to see, instead of us selling our raw pepper out there and buying it back from somebody out of St. Lucia, why can't we do the branding right here, brand Guyana, the president talk about, and then get it into the international market. So we're in conversation with Dole, Del Monte, with Tabasco. Those are all companies we're actually talking with actively to maybe set up manufacturing plants in Guyana so that we can have local partners, and then we can grow more large-scale farming, and farmers can move away from smaller farming into large-scale farming.
Okay, great. How do you see Guyana evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Exciting. I think when you listen to Dr. Ali's outlined 2030 and beyond, and when you look at the accomplishments that have happened in the 5 years, you can project what the next 5 years is going to look like. And I tell folks a lot of times the script has been written. It is not that we compare ourselves with anywhere else in the world. I mean, the Qatars, the Dubais, many countries have had economic boom from oil and gas. The difference with Guyana, and I tell this to every investor, the difference between those countries, they had oil and gas, or oil or gas. We've got natural resources they never had. We've got bauxite, we've got the agriculture sector, we've got the mining. So our 5 years, as we bring the energy cost, which is the catalyst of many new development, then the explosion will happen in the bigger projects that we have talked about for decades. We now get a chance to see that. But in the meantime, as you talk about these big projects, if you are growing, if we get to agro-processing at a large scale, and we buy green beans now in a can, and our green beans may be Bora, right? So if I got an acre of land and 100 people have an acre of land, let's get together and let's say we're going to plant the same type of Bora, make sure it grows the same way, and then we get it to the agro-processor and we start canning that as our green beans, right? Or pineapples. We buy Dole pineapples right now. If you go, I just went to the supermarket and I needed pineapple. I bought a can of Dole pineapple juice. Well, wait a minute. Why we have these 1,000 pineapples? Why could we get it into a can? It's not that we couldn't, because of the energy cost. Now the energy cost is coming out. I want to buy that can of pineapple juice, which should be the sweetest in the world, from Guyana. So Dole has a choice. Dole can come in and help us do it, or we'll figure out how to do it ourselves.
So this actually brings me to my final question. What is your message to investors?
If you're not here, you may be too late. We're moving at a rapid pace. By law, investors are protected. Yeah. We have a good commercial court system. Our folks are understanding a lot more partnership. We have a good local content law that allows for solid negotiations. And I would expect investors to, we welcome them into Guyana, but we hope they find a local partner. And we will guide them the best way we can in doing that. And the fact that, again, their investment is protected and money is safe. And we believe in democracy, accountability, and transparency. We will never compromise on those 3 items, around the world. So investors could know that if they do come in with large-scale funds, that all the rules of international laws are followed in Guyana. And then we hope that, folks that are watching, this is election year, and many crazy things are talked about during the election time frame. But don't lose sight of what we have done in the last 5 years, how, as Guyanese, we have benefited, right? Ask yourself where I was 5 years ago and where I'm at today. And you have to answer. If I was walking on a mud road in a village, and my kids, I had to wash their shoes or wash their clothes every day as they come home. Now I've got a road coming into my village. I've got a school not far from me. I've got a hospital, regional hospital being built very closely. I don't have to go to Georgetown anymore. So ask yourself, where were we in 2020 and where are we in 2025? And measure that. And then see where we will be 25 to 2030. And again, if I end with your last question, don't be left behind. Let's really, all of us, regardless of your race, your color, your party affiliation, political, whatever you may have, be proud of your Guyana, be proud of where we're going, participate in it, and take advantage. You know, the $100,000 grant is not just a giveaway. It's something that says, you know what, I can invest it into something. And that's how we have to look at what government is doing. Government is not there to take care of everything, but as much as we can partner with government as citizens, I think that will bring our country much faster to where we want it to be and what we want: prosperity, wealth, and a good life for our children.
Well, Dr. Ramsaroop, it was a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for joining us on Insight. It has been a pleasure having this insightful conversation with the Chief Investment Officer of the Government of Guyana and Agency Head of the Guyana Office for Investment, Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, learning more about the rapidly growing investment situation in Guyana. Thank you for joining us on Ignite Insights, exclusively on Ignite Television. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions right here. I'm Rihanna Nikram. See you next time.